on WCEG Click live stream tab or watch us live on your smart television. YouTube, WCEG Network. I am Damita Chatman, your host for the next hour on Take a Stand, where the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio at WCEG Network. Last but least, this disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not WCEG Network. Thank you for continued support. Hello, everyone. Hello, Councilwoman Rowell and Councilwoman Gumbs. I want to thank you for taking my invitation at the last minute. We had to do it like a shift, but I want to thank you guys for stepping up to the plate. Dr. Rowell, Councilwoman, I'm gonna talk to my councilwoman first, since she's my councilwoman. You're gonna have to go on the back burner today. Council Lady Gumbs, I want to thank you so much for taking this. I know people's out there watching because it's me and you today. And so I said it and I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna support you to the fullest, and I'm looking for good things that coming from you. Council Lady Rowell, thank you for being that go-getter. Just thank you. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Councilwoman Rowell, then I'm going to go to Councilwoman Gumbs. Council Lady Rowell.
Well, thank you for inviting us to be on today's show. I'm Councilwoman Catherine Foster Rowell. I represent the 1st District in the city of South Fulton. It covers Cascade Road, Sandtown, and the Fulton Industrial area. And I'm just glad to be here and ready to have a conversation.
Thank you, Council Lady Gumbs.
Well, absolutely. I agree. Thank you for having me on your show, and I'm excited about what's in store. I am Carmalitha Gumbs. I represent the 2nd District in the city of South Fulton. That includes the Wolf Creek and Cliftondale area. And I'm excited to be here, so I'm ready to get it going.
I'm gonna tease y'all for a minute. I know they talked about doing the recall on y'all too. Catherine, they got your recall coming, and Gumbs, they got yours in 6 months. You know what it is? They're just jealous. Don't worry about them haters jealous. That's all. I had to say that. First, let me ask you guys a question. How long have you been on the city council, and what was Okay, let me see. How long have you been on the city council, and what motivated you to run for office initially? I'm gonna go with Council Rowell.
Well, I've been on the city council since the inception of our city. So we are going into our 5th year. Our 5th anniversary will be in May. Originally, I got involved as a result of my involvement with a group called Protecting Our Communities and Schools Against Atlanta's Annexation. I was very active in that group and took over the helm after Tony Phillips, who was the first chair of that group. I became the lead, again, educating people about the impact that annexation would have on our schools. And what I realized pretty quickly early on was that we would continue to be fighting the annexation of Sandtown, A. Philip Randolph, and potentially Westlake if we didn't incorporate. So that got me involved with the cityhood movement. I was a latecomer to the party. Many people would say they were on the fight for 10 years. I actually came when we got over the finish line.
Okay, well, that's all right. As long as you're there, don't matter. Council Lady Gumbs.
I have been a resident of this area about 15 years, and I had got into local government after I got laid off from my corporate job. So I started working for DeKalb County for an elected official out there. We were actually going through our cityhood movement for the 2nd time. And I started following, and I knew the ins and outs of what DeKalb County elected officials do, and allocating resources. So it made me curious to find out which way, we were heading. And I started studying the city of South Fulton, getting to know people, and I was always in the community, but just being able to see all of the players and understand exactly what meant what. But it was important for me as a community advocate, was to make sure that we weren't going to go through the same challenges that I saw in DeKalb County, with resources going to different parts of the area. So I definitely believe that it was time for us to move into cityhood. I supported cityhood. And that's how I ended up here. I'm definitely a latecomer, because we ran against, Damita, we ran against 12 people.
Yes. Was it 12?
It was 12. It was a guy that just added his name on, but we ran against 12 people, and it was a very different kind of race for me,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
and things of that nature. But again, we're here. This is I'm going into my second term. The voters was nice enough to put me back in for a second term, and here I am today.
Yes, I'm going to say something so quick on that. Yeah, it was 2017. When I say it was, and Council Lady Gumbs can say yes or no. I think that was the most nastiest race. And now that I look back, we had agitators. That's what I'm gonna call them, agitators. And they still agitating, but God is good with maturity. Now you just have to just let them just roll off like salt or water. But that's what I say. But thank you, Council Lady Gumbs, for just sticking it out. And I will say she was in a race, was just elected, and I did not support her. I had to be obedient, but she's here now, and I'm going to do everything I can for her. And so I want all the trolls to know y'all better watch out, because I'm ready to fight. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank
Okay, let's talk about I woke up this morning and I saw something talking about an ordinance that you guys passed. Didn't have time to look at it, I think it's about this housing with investors. Could I'm gonna start with you, Councilor Gumbs. Who was the authors of this? Who sponsored this bill? And could you kind of say a little something, and then I go with Councilwoman Rowell.
I think this is the one that Council Member Mark Baker sponsored, in regards to the harassment calls from investors asking us to sell our property. Of course, we know in this housing market, I get phone calls every day asking me to sell my property if I was interested in selling the property. And there was legislation that Mark Baker actually pushed. And it actually passed in order. And I think we're probably one of the cities with one of the most stringent fines for these people to actually stop calling and harassing us to sell our property. I wish I could pull the legislation up, but as I remember it, it was Council Member Mark Baker that brought that forward.
Okay, so let me ask you. So y'all, they got fines for these folks calling?
It is a fine in there for them calling and harassing you.
Well, I want to know, because I'm tired of them calling me at midnight, early in the morning. And I told them, if you give me $1 million, I think about it. But I'm going to 5 million, and they just hang up. So thank you for that.
Well, you can always call non-emergency police and file a report.
Mhm.
Oh, is that right? Talk a little bit about that, Councilwoman Rowell, because right now, the little bit that I'm hearing, you guys are getting her beat up about that. So come on, I like Council Lady Gumbs. So tell me a little bit about that, Council Lady Rowell.
Well, it's one thing to pass an ordinance. If you don't file a complaint, there's no enforcement that can take place. So again, that onus is on, the residents and the property owners to make, get the phone numbers or the text that may be coming your way and to report that information. The police can't investigate what hasn't been reported as a crime.
Okay. Now let me ask you, because when I build out here, I build out for a reason. I didn't want to be in the city of Atlanta. I want to be out here in the rural area. But things have changed now. And right now, investors is coming even through my community. And I mean, they buying everything. And some folks are selling and some not selling. But what I've noticed that the investors is coming in, like it was a house near me. It was one price. The investors come back and said, I'll give you an extra couple $1,000. And they sold the house to the investor. But what I'm watching is now these investors are renting these homes out and renting them out for like $2,000 and $3,000. Well, we might wake up one day and our whole community might be owned by investors. You know, that's where I have a problem with. Give me some talk on that. What do you think?
Well,
How
you're
many-
right. One of the things I sponsored some legislation to address developers doing single family rental subdivisions. We had had that happen in that area right off Wallace Road. An institutional buyer, investor came in and built 23 single family homes. And so we've had a number of challenges with that. Again, it's all rental property. And that's not to say that every renter you're going to have a challenge with. But the reality is, I think it's really important for HOAs to educate their community, their residents, their homeowners. If they, if you're going to sell, while they may say it's an all cash offer, most anybody can close in 30 to 45 days. So waiting 15 days, it's all cash anyway. They're going to wire the money to your bank. So don't get caught in that language when you could be selling to a family. It's a really tough time for families to find homes right now because they are competing with investors. Go ahead and sell or counter offer to the family. You never know. They might match the offer you have from the investor. But what you have is somebody who's committed and interested in setting up roots in your community versus an institutional investor.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. What you got to say, Council Gumbs?
I definitely agree with Councilwoman Rowell. I think it's a process of making sure that we educate our community, and then also to the HOAs, because I know some of the HOAs are going through, rewriting their covenants and maybe upping the percentage of how many homes are rented throughout the community. But the climate right now, definitely in the housing market, some of the prices are overinflated, so where these families are not able to, achieve home ownership. So these investors are coming in and swooping in and, getting people at their most vulnerable moments of trying to, take their property. So I think it's important to make sure we educate residents to say, hey, please sell to a family. You don't have, their resources, especially if you're in a tight bond. So the investors can't be your miracle savers, but they are the ones who have the money to go out and buy these homes that, are inflated or overpriced. So we got to find a balance to where we can make sure that, people have the opportunity to achieve home ownership and just, for their families. So it all goes back to education for me.
Right. I know someone reached out to me from a community, and what they noticed that they're selling their homes to the investor. And this is nothing against Section 8, so don't nobody come at me talking about Section 8. But what they're seeing is these investors, like this one lady said, somebody lived next door to her, and it's like 7 people living in this house. You can't afford the house, so they're letting people 7 and etc. people move in the house. My thing is, what do we do about those type of situations? Because some of them there is just temporary. And then when I hear people saying about rewriting the covenants and etc., you're looking at people that is temporary there.
Mm-hmm.
But folks like me that bought in permanent, then you got temporary folks making some of these decisions. I think we need to look at that, but that's neither here or there. Let me ask you a question. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this old hot topic let's talk about the question, the ARB, the Airbnbs. You have people renting houses out for like $2,000 a night, having loud parties. The traffic is just crazy. What is the city doing about that?
So I was actually, and I got a lot of heat for this, the sponsor of the short-term rental legislation. The city has to get a hold of, in the city of South Fulton at the time, we had about 600 homes that were being registered on Airbnb. So we certainly don't want to tell homeowners what to do with their, property, but we also want to make sure it's manageable and we maintain the integrity of our communities and then also the quality of life for residents. And the city has gotten to the point where we have this host compliance that will actually let us know what homes are being rented out on Airbnb, VRBO, and some other websites. But also at the same time, residents will have to call in and code enforcement will go out and cite those individuals or find the homeowners. We've set up stings in operations, but what we're finding is that a lot of the residents that are doing their Airbnb still are not registering with the city. So that's one of the challenges that we continue to face. We again cannot tell homeowners really what to do with their property, but when it impacts the quality of life of the entire community, that's when we have to put our foot down. So we are trying to keep pushing that, and we still have host compliance. So if there is an Airbnb that a resident suspects, we'll monitor it if you call it in. So we need residents, so we're able to enforce, these legislations that we have put out. Just like Councilwoman Rowell mentioned, enforcement is the key tool to getting things done. So we won't know about it, but I get calls from residents every day about they think or suspect a Airbnb, and we call out code enforcement, and they go out and they check it out. And if they are not registered, they give them a time to register. But if it happens again, then they are fined for the city from the city.
Okay.
And can I share
Councilwoman.
something? Can
Yeah,
I share
sure.
something about that? I think the Airbnb rentals is a perfect example how HOAs and the city ordinance can work together. While we have a general one which says that you have to register your Airbnb, so we monitor it. It helps our police officers so they know what kind of situation they may be going into if they have a registered Airbnb. But a HOA can, like you said, update their covenants and put something that's more restrictive if you don't think the city ordinance has gone far enough. I know a number of communities have, as Councilwoman Gumbs said earlier, they may be putting caps on the number of rentals across the board in their covenants, or they may address Airbnb directly, and they have that right and that prerogative. Again, that requires a certain amount of the homeowners in that community to agree to it. But that's another enforcement arm that can be used and work in tandem with the local ordinances that we've adopted.
So the catch is that will the HOA leaders enforce that, or will they just say, "Oh well, it's just that's another day for that." What about that with me. Okay, let me ask you. I've been hearing a lot of chatter on social media about forensic audit. Maybe about a month ago, I think your attorney or someone said that you didn't really need that. So let's talk about that. It's a group of people talking about a forensic audit. If it's nothing there, why waste the money? Do you agree?
Absolutely.
I definitely.
Okay. Do you agree? And I'm saying that because I went through something like that, and I'm still waiting for the audit. Okay. And so I think it's a waste of I think it's a waste of money. But Dr. Rowell, I'm going to get with you. What are they looking for? Just what the people looking for.
I honestly don't know, but as I've said in the past, I don't know if you're aware, but me and Councilwoman Gumbs were the ones who introduced the transparency legislation to put our finances out when we first incorporated the city. And so you can go on and look at Open Checkbook and see literally from department to department purchases. Now, people may not be aware of it, but the information is available. One thing, we are audited every year. And cities have to submit, or they should submit these reports to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. They also analyze the data they get from municipalities across the state. There are 538 cities. And so when you're not compliant, it is an issue because you're not able to assess government grants that may be available through the state. So we've been very diligent about making sure we're audited on an annual basis and that we report to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And anybody can go on the DCA site and see which cities are not compliant. I think you'd probably be surprised, but we are one that has been compliant since we have begun reporting and had a whole full year of financials to report against.
Well, I'm gonna go to Council Lady Gumbs. I'm gonna tell you, I did that investigation, and so I want to thank the City of South Fulton being good stewards over our money. But I will tell before I go to, do you agree with me, Council Lady Gumbs? You better be careful what you ask for, because when you go into the records, you might see something that you're not expecting.
I totally agree.
And let me tell you, I went there and I've seen some stuff. So folks better be very careful. Come on, Council Lady Gumbs, give me what you think about that.
I think one of the things that is when we say forensic audit, it definitely implies that something criminal has taken place. I don't think the taxpayers really understand the difference. And we've even had in council meetings where we've seen that our mayor has kind of doubled back on asking for a forensic audit. So, that was one of his things on the campaign trail. So I think, he understands now that, if there's criminal intent, that, this is what a forensic audit is supposed to show. But at this point in time, I think we continue to, educate our residents whether or not they want to listen. But a forensic audit is not needed. We've been audited every year. And then we have residents that can do open records requests and get that information as well. So I do think it would be a waste of taxpayers' money. But again, we haven't done anything criminal in the city. I don't think there's anything that kind of leads the people to think that we've done anything criminal. I just think residents don't know what to ask for.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I did the research. Y'all ain't done nothing. I ain't found nothing. So thank you. Keep being good stewards over our money. What you finna say, Council Lady Ryle?
I do think, and I don't want people to miss that at our work session earlier in the month, we actually had an update from our auditors, and they really walked everybody through the difference between a performance audit, a forensic audit, and a general audit. And again, we've had our general audit every year, and we're currently looking at ways to become more efficient. As you know, we transition many services from the county and those models, and some of those things we're continuing to tweak. So our city manager has called for an audit of our Parks and Rec department as one of the first departments she wants to look at to again see, everything from our staffing. Does it make sense? Is our fee structure appropriate? Our, facility use agreements? Those are the kinds of things to see if we could be more efficient and more in line with maybe other cities. So I think the entire council welcomes those kind of audits to make sure that we are delivering the services we need to at the quality we want to deliver them at.
Okay, thank you. The next question, I'm gonna start with you, Councilwoman Ryle. What are the number one requests you receive from citizens about what they want you to address in each of your districts?
I would say the number one, I'll say the top three. So one, litter in the right of way. That's probably one of my number one requests. Number two, I'd say, and they've slowed down quite a bit. I used to get a lot of requests about sanitation pickup from our sanitation providers, but that subsided significantly. A lot of that was when we were, in the peak of this pandemic, and some of the companies had turnover in staff, and their new staff weren't familiar with the routes, and sometimes they missed some communities, so they had to double back, and that was a problem because some people had trash on the street for multiple days. And then I say my third one is probably the tractor trailers, in areas. And when we've tried to address some of that, been working really close with Chief Meadows. They've been doing some special ops to try to deal with trailers on restricted roads, as well as we've installed some flashing no truck signs along Cascade Road. And hopefully we'll be able to get some more of those just to raise awareness that they are not supposed to be on those residential roads. So I'd say those are my top three.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Council Lady Gumbs?
The top three, I would say, would be number one, the trash and litter, the trucks on Enon, Butner, everywhere, and then also to development. We are one of the hottest districts where people want to come and live, work, and play. So development, even though it has slowed down just a little bit, has been coming at us pretty fierce. So I think those have been some of the complaints, and making sure that we get quality developers here in the city to really kind of level out our home prices and raise them up, those type of things.
Okay, thanks. Let me ask you a question, Council Lady Gumbs. I know District 2 is moving fast and it is the hottest. Have you ever thought about redoing that Cliftondale's community, that school, maybe making that school out of something? Have you thought about that?
Definitely. We're actually going through a renovation process we have funds that have been set aside in the URA to renovate Cliftondale Park and then also the arts building. So we're doing that in phases. We want to make sure that we also kind of address the curb appeal as well. So you will see a difference coming up pretty soon in regards to that, probably about 6 to 9 months. But those parks are closed as of right now for those type of renovations. But yes, it needs a lot of work, and I'll get on Parks and Recs all the time because I'm like, what are we doing? But we do have the funds to help with renovation. So
Now,
they are windows, I believe, some minor interior upgrades. So we're doing it in phases though.
Okay, good. And I'm gonna get back with Council Rowell, but I'm gonna focus on District 2. Right now, that I call that little intersection of, is it Butner's Stonewall Tail? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
I call that Mayberry. What are y'all gonna do about Mayberry? Because when I ride past there, now some homeowners might not say it openly, but they talk about it. I can say it openly. What are you guys going to do about that? I don't mind folks making money, but I think that curb appeal is all right to slap a little blue paint up there and make it look good. But I think that should be bought up to code, that all of that should bought up to code. Right now, you might have, it reminds me of Mayberry, and now you have, I say bootleg. You have bootlegs coming, everybody over there. So what are you going to do about that? Because in order to get through District 2 and 3 and 4, you got to pass that.
Well, I think the roundabout that's coming will pretty much change the face of that particular area. It certainly won't change the grocery store. We need to really work with that owner to do some upgrades. But I think you will see a difference with that roundabout being there. That it won't look so much like Mayberry. Even though some residents don't want us to change and upgrade as well, but it's about striking a balance. But I definitely think that you will see a big difference once that roundabout is completed. As you can see with the Boat Rock area as well over that
beautiful
way. Yeah, that roundabout is gorgeous. So the same thing will be happening here at Butner and Stonewall Tail.
Okay.
Can I say something about
yes.
that? Because I think that's a great segue. People own their property and land, and to the extent we definitely want them to keep their properties up to code. But a lot of times constituents ask us to do things that's a little bit beyond our purview, if you will.
Mhm.
And so if you don't want Mayberry and that property owner has no intent to sell, there's a great opportunity to have a conversation with the property owner in the community and set the standard for what you like to see in that business or the aesthetics, I think that's okay, right?
Yeah.
It's not our intent to put people who've been around for a long time out of business, but it's nothing wrong with us expressing as community how we like the aesthetics, the interior of the businesses. I think that's something we could do. I think we need to have more communication around those kind of, particularly for legacy businesses who've been around a long time.
Yeah, and I agree. I remember when it wasn't a gas station there. And so and I'm not saying for them to close it down. I think it kind of can be improved because they do make money there. It's
Mhm.
crowded there every day. So the money is being made. And I don't care who the owner is. I believe if you making the money, you should keep it cleaned up, trash. It should just be cleaned up. And that's not only for that area, that goes across the city. So
Agreed.
thank you for that. Now let me ask you, there's been a lot of chatter talking about the turnover of employees through the city down at City Hall. I know you can't get into personnel, but I'm gonna start with you, Council Lady Rowell. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, this is what I say. It's not atypical to see turnover when you have a change in administration. I don't think that's atypical. And I also know that for the city of South Fulton, of course, we took a lot of employees from Fulton County who transitioned over to the city. Our two biggest departments in our city, and they probably 60 to 70% of our employee base is between two departments, which is fire and police. And I don't think people really realize that. So while we may talk heavily about police and fire in terms of personnel issues, because they're the vast majority of our workforce.
Yeah.
So in fire in particular, we got a lot of retirement submissions. So that's attributed to some of it. Many of them have been with Fulton County a long time. I know in the police department, Chief Meadows early on really focused on recruiting younger officers so that we'd have, balance. While we had very seasoned police officers who came from Fulton County, he also wanted some young guns. So he, focused on putting some folks through the academy. So again, one of the things we're currently involved with is to better understand the needs of our employees. A couple years back, the council basically approved the formation of a union with fire. And so we're going through the first ever negotiations with the fire department. And that is our effort to try to hear what the needs of our employees are and to respond to them. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
but people say that we're listening, and we're
Awesome.
specifically listening to our employees.
Awesome. And that's great. What you think about that, Council Lady Gumbs? You want to chime in on that?
Well, I definitely think leadership matters. And again, there's no, and I think you posted something today about that. Leadership definitely matters. And we have to, do what we can to make sure that our employees are treated fairly and equitably. So I think that's important. But, at this time, it's a lot of, local governments that are going through this same thing. We're not just the only ones that are bleeding, due to employees. This pandemic has pretty much changed our entire lives and how we operate. So there are benefits that people are looking for, like working from home or, being able to telework, those type of things. And we have to, either bring our government up to speed or find the right person. But I think this is an opportunity for a lot of residents that live in the area to take advantage of their skill sets and offer it to the city. I think, if they're in retirement or whatever the case may be. So I think this is an opportunity for us to put more talent that's at home back into local government.
Absolutely. And that was one of the biggest things when we were fighting for cityhood, is to have local control and folks that live in our communities. Is that right, Councilwoman Rowell, am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so I'm gonna give you guys a shout out for passing that police retention bonus. I'm gonna say thank you for doing that because that makes a difference. And thank you. Let me ask you
Well, I
this.
want to thank the residents who took the time to weigh in. We got numerous emails from people. Not all of them did the public comment, but I received so many emails and texts about supporting our officers because people have noticed the decrease in crime, the increased visibility of our police over the last 3 or 4 years, and they appreciate it. So again, we stand with our law enforcement.
Mhm.
And let me tell you what I hear the young folks. You know, I'm around them, the young folks, and they have a joke. Don't you go to City of South Fort because Chief Meadows out there. So they even pay attention to what's going on. So I mean, I'm gonna give y'all thumbs up. Because I know sometimes it's not easy, Council Lady Gumbs or Council Lady Ryle, because you got a Damita that you got to deal with, and I know it ain't easy. But I tell them, don't take it personal. You know, I might go be on 100 today, but tonight I might be on 10. So you know, it's okay. But see, other folks, they get up there and what I'm seeing is everybody in our city is not unhappy. You only have a few. And I stand by what I said. If you're not happy, put it up for sale and go somewhere where you're happy at. That's why, because if you're not happy, just why keep being miserable and want everybody else miserable around you? That's my take. Let's talk about these maps that's being drawn. We're gonna talk about the commissioner maps. I know we got city maps. We ain't gonna fool with them city maps yet. Let's talk about these commissioner maps. What do y'all think about them maps? And if you don't want to say too much about it, but you know, just give me a little hit and miss. What you think about that, Council Lady Ryle?
Well,
I hear you. I hear you. I'm gonna go into Council Lady Gumbs.
well, let me say this,
Okay.
just in general. You know, our constituents are not only represented by the city council, they're also represented by Fulton County Board of Commissioners. And whoever your commissioner is, whether it's, you know, Marvin Arrington or Khadijah Abdul Rahman, or if you have to implore support from the chair of the delegation, which represents the whole county. We have a number of needs at the county level, and I need citizens to be just and get as engaged in that process as they are with the city. In terms of the map, I would just say in general, I need people in our city to be more engaged in voting and participating in the process altogether. I think our last elections told us that, you know, we have over 85,000 people who are registered voters in the footprint of our city, and less than 11,000 determine the outcome of our election. So if you didn't vote or you didn't participate, then I'm going to say it, you're part of the problem.
Amen.
She said,
Amen.
I don't have.
You don't have nothing to say,
She said it perfectly. She said it perfectly.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if I know my council probably don't know because I didn't include them in the email, but I sent an email to the commissioners, Fulton County commissioners. And I know this is an election year, but I also know that City of South Fulton is due what's belong to us. So I have given them 30 days to come back to me on those demands. And in 30 days, if those demands are not met, I'm going to do an open email that I sent to the commissioners, because we have been playing games now with them since we have became a city. And I know for a fact that, and I'm not saying the north or the south, but the north side didn't go through what the south side went through. And so I have put everybody on the Fulton County Commissioner Board on notice. Nothing personal, it's taxpayer dollars. So I'm hoping in 30 days that we be victorious, but if we're not, I'm going to the public and to the streets. So just keep watching. Let's talk about code enforcement. And I'm gonna say this to both of the council women. Years ago, we had someone named Stanley Fletcher and Wright. Back then, I think Tony Phillips was over the code enforcement board. And I'm not knocking this code enforcement board because I'm not haven't been sitting down with him. But we had a outstanding code enforcement. Right now, you can ride through my community. I'm gonna use my community. You have cars with no tags. You have cars that's parked on the grass. You have I can say what you call them, cooking grills on hitches. You have just a number of stuff. We even have a home, the window has been boarded up now for 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
And I know for a fact I have sent that over to code enforcement, and every time you send something over to code enforcement, they say it's not under their jurisdiction. What happens if you have a code enforcement problem at 8:00 at night? What do you do, Council Lady Gumbs?
Well, right now we are definitely working with the police department, and they also are supposed to have a liaison that they work with during those night calls, because most of the time our code enforcement personnel works throughout the day. So as far as I know, that the chief does have someone that he brings on, and they work in the evenings to address code enforcement issues. But also too, they give the codes to the officers, so they're able to address with any type of citations as well. I think also too, one of the things that a lot of residents don't understand is the difference between what's in code enforcement's wheelhouse versus what's in PD. So like, for instance, a car that is no tags on the main street, that is a public street, that's addressed by police department. So if it's something that's on the property, then now all of that is addressed by code enforcement. So I think, when those things are, if you see cars parked on the grass, definitely make sure you call code enforcement. But those type of issues that are happening on the public streets and, cars double parked and all of that, that's police. But again, that's how they're working together. We want to continue to try to strengthen that relationship, because again, overall, police, writing these citations and getting people's behaviors to change, sometimes takes a lot. So we definitely need them to work together.
Can I share something too?
Yes.
I was very disturbed about what you said about properties that may have had violations for 5 years. I'm sure, I don't want to overspeak, but I'm sure if you give Councilwoman Gumbs those addresses for that can be taken care of. But I will say, in a community like yours, where I know you have an HOA, really, usually the HOA is citing and fining homeowners. So again, about being proactive, maybe that's that home that you haven't had any luck, then I would say you would want to put that in C-Click Fix. C-Click Fix is the equivalent of a tracker. So once this goes in that system, it should be routed to code enforcement, and it's the dashboard that the leadership in the city is looking at. So I really encourage people to use that. And if you, and I'll assist too, if you have something that's coming through and like you said, it hasn't been resolved over that extended period of time, that's exactly when the city council should be involved. A lot of times people come to us first and not last. And so, if you're having issues with that kind of situation, that's when we would interject ourselves and follow up with appropriate departments and the city manager.
Okay. Well, I'm finna give y'all something to marinate on. The best code enforcement lady that can tell you everything about the codes and the violation, and she worked on there. Y'all go give her something to do, and that's Vanjie Watkins. Give her a volunteer job, but she gonna make sure she get it done. Let me ask you.
She still volunteers extensively in
I
District
know
1.
she
I can
do.
tell you.
Now, let me ask you, the residents have been weighing in on one sanitation provider. What are your thoughts and what are you hearing? I'm gonna go, give me a minute on that, Council Lady Rowell, and I'm gonna go to Councilwoman Gumbs. What are you hearing?
Real quick, my general thing is I've heard primarily complaints about one provider. And so, I think I've heard a lot of people still want competition in the market. I've been looking at the model in Gwinnett County where when they did issue a RFP, they did zones.
Exactly.
And so with the zone approach, you might have 2 or 3 zones to cover the city. I think we have roughly about 35,000 households. That's a large number of households. Having a zoned approach basically says, hey, we issue RFP, you can bid on it, and you may have maybe 2 or 3 providers, but maybe in your particular zone, you deliver service on that one day. So you don't have to have trucks or trash out multiple days, that kind of thing. And so, I'm personally leaning to that based on what I'm hearing. A lot of people are okay with their providers, so I'm willing and listening. I've listened to the first couple of sessions we've had, and I know it's 2 on tomorrow, March 1st. And so I'm my ears are tuned to hear what residents are saying and figuring out what's the right solution for the city.
Thank you. What about you, Councilwoman Gumbs?
Oh my gosh, I'm hearing more I don't want it versus more that I do want it. I think one of the things too, as Councilwoman Rowell mentioned, was that they want to have choices. It's unfortunate that a lot of the small haulers are actually trying to sell to these big corporations because they think that they're not able to compete. And I want to say, publicly at this point in time, please don't sell any more of your routes to anybody. I mean,
Absolutely.
unless you really want to, be a business, because there's opportunities, and a lot of residents like their small haulers. So I agree with the zoning of the districts. I think that would be very helpful. But again, at the end of the day, I'm just hearing, no, I don't want it. I want to be able to choose my own provider because we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. And I think how we also rolled it out as well, mentioned that it would be a sole provider. And I don't think that was the actual intent.
Well, let me say this. I agree with you, Council Lady Gumbs, because when we built in 2005, we had Dream Sanitation. Dream Sanitation was bought out by a big provider. Then another big provider bought out the other provider, and it just kept going and going. I like the zoning, but I think we need to do something about the trash. And reason this is why we need to do something. That was one of the things that we fought hard for, was police, trash, fire. And I believe it won't cut out all of the littering because it is, I don't know if it's in our makeup or what, but it's something in our culture. If you have a McDonald's bag in your car and you can't leave that McDonald's bag in your car till you get home, that you throw it out. So I totally agree. I was up in Roswell, Sandy Springs last week. I took a ride down Old National this weekend, and I'm gonna tell you what I saw. And I barely saw any paper on the streets in Roswell, Sandy Springs, all the way up that corridor. Barely little. I go this week down from District 2, District 4, all the way over to Old National. It looked like a pig pen. I'm not going to throw that on the city council. I'm going to throw that back on the backs of the residents that live in our area. And I'm getting tired of residents, homeowners saying it's the renters. Absolutely not. It's not all renters. So we ain't gonna put it. I have watched folks get out of their Mercedes. I got pictures. They BMWs and their Mercedes, kid you not. And they throw their trash over in the tree line just on West Stubbs.
Mhm.
When I leave at night, I followed this car and they were finna throw their trash out on West Stubbs, but they saw my headlights, so they kind of went on. They had so many trash bags on the top of their car. And I was like, wow. So this is not just y'all problem. This is our problem. I believe once we get that trash, it will help that. Now, let me ask you a question.
Now, can I say this? Because I don't want people to think that just going to, trying to make sure everybody has trash service, because we try to do that. I mean, you look at Atlanta, everybody has trash service there. You put your can out and they come get the trash, and guess what? They got litter all over the place.
Yes.
So it's deeper than that. And you're right, it's a problem that we all have to own. I have been doing cleanups, and y'all almost would have saw a part of Councilwoman Rowell you hadn't seen, because they thrown it down in my face, and I was like, Lord help me. So you're right. It's something that we all have to own. I hope more groups will work alongside Public Works and adopt a road. That's another opportunity to give it back. I mean, you can usually clear a road in 2 hours with a couple people on a picker. And so I hope more people would step up. When I worked in Atlanta, they had neighborhood cleanups on a regular. I know people think that they too good for that or whatever, but aesthetics matter.
Yeah, you do. You got folks think they too good. You got folks think they too good. They just want certain folks to go out there, gonna call a spade a spade. I mean, we were out there cleaning up West Stubbs one time, and it amazed me how the folks was throwing trash out of their cars at us, telling us to pick up their trash. I think that was the last time I picked up trash. Let me ask you a question. This is a Facebook question. Will the approved paving projects begin in city of South Fulton? And I'm gonna go to Council Lady Gumbs with this one. I know water. I know WP is on that to be repaved. If you go down some of our streets now, they are horrible. And I want you to
Renaissance today.
yeah,
This is awful.
Yeah, it is. And let me say something to you, Council Lady Gumbs. Years ago, we did, when we built out here, they had, McCulloch put a bond with Fulton County to do our streets. And I went to the commissioners, and whatever happened to that bond, I don't know, that's here and there. We went back to ask the commissioners to pave our street, and it's up for the community what they want. We did a petition, had the attorney sign papers. We got less than 100 signatures. We're gonna leave that there. But let me ask you a question. You clear this up. When they come through WP, they're gonna pave all the streets. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
That's not correct. They have specific streets, because, as you know, WP will take up all of the T-Splosh money that's available to pave those streets. So there are certain streets based off of the formula that has been developed by Public Works to determine what those streets are. And I do believe Renaissance is one of them, and I have the names of the other streets as well. I got to go back and look at it, but it's a formula that they go through to determine, I guess, to kind of balance it out. But certainly if we paved all of the streets in WP, we wouldn't be able to pave any other streets within any of the subdivisions. So we have to be very mindful of,
if
how
you
to
do,
that money.
and I agree. If you do that, them two main streets are coming in, I think you would hit it, because they're horrible, and they've been. I know the streets, and I'm not talking about, I know some communities, they patching, and it's beyond patching now. So thank you for that.
Well, can I say this too? And it is something that I think the entire council will be working towards. We don't know exactly how this infrastructure money will come down to cities, but we know we inherit a lot of aging infrastructure, bridges replaced, roads repaved. we'll be working with Public Works to make sure we come up with a list that makes sense and complements what we weren't able to do with T-Splosh. And so, we're going to be keeping all of that in mind as we come up with the plan and get that guidance from the federal government. A lot of people, you hear about it, they vote on it. We don't get that money right away, but we're mindful that that's another opportunity for us to expand our reach in terms of addressing some of these needs.
Okay, we're getting down to the wire, and this is the last question I want to ask y'all. See, I need a whole day with y'all. What has been the biggest challenge you will have faced since the transition of the mayoral seat, and what areas do you all need to focus on to move forward? Council Lady Rowell, you got 1 minute to answer that.
I think working together with a shared vision. So, our current mayor, of course, served on the city council. We have a strategic plan that we're operating from and an economic development plan. Because of COVID, we have had limited opportunities to get together. And next month in March, we have our retreat. And so some of the things I think you might have a different outcome if we take the time to talk them through. So I'm very much looking forward to our retreat in March. I want to better understand what our mayor heard on the campaign trail. I hear a lot from my constituents. I need to make sure they marry up. I think I'm very in tune. I get a lot of calls from my constituents. So again, looking for the common ground that we can find to move the city forward. So communication and a shared vision.
I agree. Thank you. Council Lady Gumbs.
I think one of the things is that we have to come together and just let bygones be bygones and do the work of the people. Definitely collaboration and communication are necessary for us to be successful with our new mayor. And I definitely think that he also has to, come out of his feelings. I know a lot of people are saying that we're still in our feelings about, the transition, but, I think also too, there's a pattern there as well for our current mayor. So I think, again, we do need to get it in a room. We need to hash it out, and we need to be committed to move this city forward. And that's all I pretty much have to say in regards to that.
And I agree. I agree with you with that. And I'm going to say this. I want to thank you guys for your last meeting, because the last meeting, I know it took a lot. I'm sitting at home looking at that circus. I'm gonna call it a circus, and we got to stop using residents as puppets to come carry our water. You can look at that meeting and tell that it was staged with a bunch of puppets that had misinformation. I think communication and information is powerful. When you get to know and get the right information, it's powerful. And I'm going to say this, just like the flyer, you guys were on the meeting, on the council. Any going out president was sent out to accomplish. Is that correct? Yes or no?
In my experience,
yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't even know why that rose to the occasion to be an issue. I think at a minimum, 4 years of service, the mayor has significant accomplishments, and he wanted to share that information. That's the least we could do. Mm-hmm. And I would support the same thing for the current mayor. I mean, I annually do a mail out, so I was kind of surprised that it was even a issue. But at the end of the day, I think it's time to move on.
Absolutely.
The mayor, the former mayor, you don't see him on the chat and doing all that. It's time to move. It's time to move forward. At this point, our mayor has to lead, and again, we got to get on one accord.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I want to thank you guys first for coming. Short notice. I'm going to be doing me and I think Joe Flint is going to be doing a town hall We're going to break it up in districts because if we get all you guys together, it's going to be a meeting. So we're going to be doing a town hall so residents can chime in and it's going to be productive. Again, thank you. Let's do some closing remarks. Catherine, you got a second. Closing remarks.
Well, just thank you for having me on the show. I think it's important that we take these opportunities to engage with community. We don't get to do that in our traditional meeting settings. I'm always available to speak to community groups. I have a listening ear, so please reach out.
Thank you. Council Gumbs.
Well, definitely thank you for having
Thank
me
you.
on the show. I think it's great, and I definitely will be sharing this, with my live streams as well, because I think it's important for these type of sessions to happen again. Advocacy is important, understanding the truth is important, and then just moving on is important. So again, I love this city. I love the city of South Fulton, and I see our potential and where we are going. So I just need residents to get on board with that same vision that we all share, and just pray for our success. I again, thank you for doing this, and we're looking forward to doing more. So
thank you guys for coming. Again, we're at the end of the show. Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to be supporting you guys. When I say don't take it personal, but anybody that come after my council, even my mayor, when he's right, I'm going to beat him up. So again, thank you for coming, and you guys have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.